Welcome back to Pigskin Perspectives. It is time to do a football weekend preview as we always do. This week, a little different. It's the final week of the NFL season. So we're going to spend this whole episode previewing week 18 of the NFL season. The college football national championship preview will be Saturday. That's when I will plan on doing it. Just works out better that way. Each things are separate. Each things can be focused in on, and we can go from there basically. So week 18 of the NFL season is here. For half the teams, it's time to start looking at the draft board after this weekend. For the other half, it's preparing for a run to Vegas. That would be 3 weeks of playoffs. So 3 straight weeks, 3 wins, get you to Vegas. 2 if you're the 1 seed, so if you're the Ravens or the 49ers. But most likely, 3 wins are going to get you to Vegas, with a 4th win getting you a ring. And it's going to be an interesting ride this weekend. A lot still to be decided in the NFL. And this is going to be quite an interesting weekend, to say the least. So let's get into it. We'll break down the games, go through the matchups, and then we'll get into playoff scenarios. So we're going to start first. The first game of the weekend is on Saturday. It's an ESPN doubleheader on Saturday. So if you were planning on no football on Saturday, I've got some news for you. There's football on Saturday. The Pittsburgh Steelers are traveling to Baltimore to face off against the Ravens, a Ravens team that's already clinched the 1 seed and sitting a lot of players this weekend, kind of as expected. A lot of sitting across the NFL this weekend because things just don't matter for some teams right now. So Pittsburgh fighting for their playoff lives. It is going to take a valiant effort for them to end up getting into the playoffs. They've already dug themselves a very deep hole that it's going to take a lot of work around them to even make it into the playoffs. I don't see it happening because even though the Ravens aren't going to be starting a ton of players, I still think that the Ravens may sneak out the victory. It's going to be a close game. Can I see the Steelers somehow eking out a victory? Yes, but I still think the Ravens are going to end up winning this one. And then on Saturday night, it's the Saturday Night Football, or if you want to go back to last week, when it's the Monday Night Football Saturday edition. I don't know. They're not using that this week, so who knows. It is the Houston Texans going to Indianapolis to face off against the Colts. It's basically a do-or-die game for both teams. Indy currently sits in the playoffs. Houston sits out. This game also has implications. If whoever wins this game, and a game that we're going to talk about in a few minutes, if the Titans can beat the Jaguars, the winner of this game wins the division. So this game, very, very crucial for how the AFC South is going to play out and how the wild card picture is going to look in the AFC. This is a difficult one to pick because Houston with CJ Stroud is a really good team. If he didn't get concussed, the Texans are in a better spot right now than they are. The Colts have done a great effort this year with Anthony Richardson basically being out since the beginning of the season. Gardner Minshew has led this team as far as he has. They're on the brink of the playoffs, technically a brink of a division title. So I think the Colts get this one just barely because it's at home. If this was on the road or at a neutral site, even though neutral sites aren't a thing in the NFL except the Super Bowl, I'd take the Texans either way. I just think Indy being at home, I think they eke out a victory here. Now we're going to move on to Sunday. A lot of these games, well, I shouldn't say a lot. Some of these games don't matter at all. Like the Browns traveling to Cincinnati to face off against the Bengals. But then there are other games that mean a lot. So some of the ones that probably don't mean as much and probably won't talk as much about, that's just how it's going to work. So, the Browns, the Bengals. Bengals eliminated from playoff contention. Browns clinched into the 5 seed. Yeah. Jeff Driscoll is starting at quarterback for the Cleveland Browns. So a lot of players getting rest this week for the Browns. They haven't had a bye week since week 4. So there's some much needed rest going around. Does that worry me for the wild card round of the playoffs with whatever AFC South team they play? Yes, it does. But I'd rather risk being rusty for at least the first half of the wild card game than have somebody else get injured and out with the season-ending injury like half our team is right now. The Vikings and the Lions, simply put, the Vikings have to win this game to keep their playoff hopes alive. If they lose, they're out. The Lions still have a slight chance at the 2 seed, but it's going to be the 3 seed, even though they're fighting for the 2 seed, which isn't going to happen. I still think the Lions win this game. The game I just talked about a few seconds ago, the Jacksonville Jaguars, all they have to do is win this game and they win the division. Do I think they can do that? I have no idea. Is Trevor Lawrence truly healthy? I don't think so. Are the Titans awful? Kind of. They kind of are. With it being in Tennessee, does that give Tennessee an advantage? No, not truly, because Tennessee hasn't been good all year. Is Mike Vrabel going to be coaching the Titans next year? I honestly have no idea. I truly do not. I would think that they would stick with him, but I honestly have no idea if the Adams family, which is the ownership, not a TV show, if they're going to move on from him. I don't know what the Titans do this offseason. Will Levis is a okay quarterback. Ryan Tannehill obviously is out because they've tried to replace him twice this year. Malik Willis, I don't think he's a thing anymore because it's Will Levis now. Do they draft a quarterback this year? I have no idea. It's the 3rd straight year they draft a quarterback. I have no idea. Titans, a very odd team. Are the Jaguars healthy? I have no idea. Given that, still give me the Jaguars just because I think that's a better matchup for the Browns than the Texans or the Colts. The Browns barely beat the Colts earlier on this season. That's when they were more healthy. And they beat the Texans handily, but it was because C.J. Stroud wasn't playing. So I'd rather play Jacksonville, even though, again, that might be a tough game in Jacksonville. The Jets and the Patriots are playing for nothing but draft picks, I should say. Is this Bill Belichick's last game as a New England Patriot? I, again, absolutely no idea. If I had to choose, I'd probably say yes more than no that it's his last game. They've kind of turned it around a bit these past few weeks, but I kind of feel like the end is here. And the parting of ways will be done at the end of this season, which comes to an end for both of these teams after Sunday. Another very interesting game, a lot of playoff implications. It's the Atlanta Falcons, New Orleans Saints. Simply put, if the Buccaneers lose to the Panthers, which I don't expect them to, but they looked bad last week. The Panthers, I feel like, could sneak a game somehow. If the Buccaneers lose, the winner of this game wins the division. So yes, the Atlanta Falcons could technically be hosting a playoff game against the either Philadelphia Eagles or Dallas Cowboys. Most likely Philadelphia Eagles. That just boggles my mind. if I had to pick a winner of the Saints-Falcons game, I'll go with the Saints. And the Bucs have to win. Simply put, they have to win. I've heard a lot about how Baker Mayfield's had a renaissance this year and how just great of a quarterback he's become, even though he's put on some awful games, including last week. He has to win this game. If he doesn't, there's going to be some pitchforks coming out for him. Just saying. The Buccaneers have to win this game. We can't see the Saints or the Falcons in the playoffs, so we just can't. Moving on, we get to the 4:25 window. Bears-Packers, simply put. Packers win, they're in the playoffs. Packers lose, there's a 5% chance they make the playoffs. It is as simple as that. The Packers getting a victory over their biggest rival, who have been hot as of late, to get in the playoffs. It doesn't get more entertaining than that. I can't wait to see how this game plays out. I hope the Packers sneak into the playoffs. I think that because they can be as high as a 6th seed, which would mean that they would be most likely be playing Detroit. I'm just saying. But I honestly wouldn't be surprised if the Bears spoil the party here, get the victory, and move on to their offseason where they have the number 1 overall pick, because Carolina Panthers are absolutely a horrific organization. Broncos, Raiders, I don't know what to think about this game. Both teams eliminated from playoff contention. Is this Antonio Pierce's last game as head coach of the Raiders, interim technically head coach, to become the permanent head coach, or for Mark Davis to go out and hire somebody wild again? I really don't know. I still expect the Broncos to get a victory here, even though Russell Wilson is not starting at quarterback. The Philadelphia Eagles going up against the New York Giants in the Meadowlands. The Eagles would have to win this game, and then the Cowboys would have to lose in the next game that we will be talking about. So the Cowboys Commanders. So we'll just tie them in together. Cowboys win. They're the 2 seed. They win the division. Eagles would be the 5 seed. Cowboys lose. Eagles win. Eagles are the 2 seed. Cowboys the 5 seed. Cowboys lose, Eagles lose. It's Cowboys 2, Eagles 5. It's really as simple as that. Cowboys, all they got to do is win, and they're in, even though they're already in. Against the Commanders team, who's awful. Is this Ron Rivera's last game as head coach? Most likely. With the Giants, is this Brian Dable's last game as head coach? I wouldn't be surprised if the Giants decide to move on from him, even though it's more the pieces he was given than what he's done. I don't know. The Chiefs, Chargers, I don't think there's anything on the line in this one. The Chiefs will go out and win, even though they aren't starting Mahomes, and it's just going to be a mess of players, basically. Easton Stick, I'm sure, will do something. What is the Chargers' future of head coaching? That should start to clear its way out these next few days after this game. Seahawks, Cardinals. The Seahawks have to win and have some help around them to get in. Cardinals eliminated from the playoffs. Rams, 49ers. 49ers already clinched the division and the 1 seed, so a lot of rest this weekend for them. And then the Rams, they have to win to get in, but there are more scenarios than not that they can get in with a loss. And seeding definitely changes if the Rams win or lose here. We'll get all to that in a minute. And finally, the Bills and the Dolphins, Sunday Night Football, the last game of the regular season. This game decides the AFC East. Winner, I believe, gets the 2 seed. Loser, ends up 6-7 / out of the playoffs. There is a scenario where things play out, the Bills lose this game, and they're out of the playoffs, which is just insane to think. I want to pick the Dolphins, but after last week, it's really starting to question my mind again what this Dolphins team is. Are they good against good teams? I really don't know. Buffalo's going to be a test. They are hot. Are they peaking at the right time? They may have peaked a tiny bit too early, especially when playoffs start. Things get shaky there. With the loss of Bradley Chubb for that Dolphins defense, I think that's going to be a major factor. And I think the Bills sneak away with victory here and win the AFC East after being dead and buried just weeks ago. I mean, they were sitting at 500 and we didn't even think they'd make the playoffs. So, yeah, wild times in the AFC East. So, I figured we recap or previewed all these games. Let's take a look at the playoff picture and all the scenarios that can play out this weekend. So this could be for the AFC. I found these two graphics on Reddit, so thank you to Reddit. The seeds that are locked in are the Ravens at the 1, the Chiefs at 3, and the Browns at the 5. Denver and Las Vegas start this all off. They are the first domino to fall to make other dominoes fall and figure out what we're doing with this playoffs. So like I said, the winner of the Bills-Dolphins game, that they're going to be the 2 seed. The loser, which if it's the Dolphins, they most likely, they are 100% a 6 seed, I should say. The Bills, it gets more tricky there because there are scenarios, like I said, where they get left out of the playoffs and the Steelers make it in. There are also scenarios where the Bills make it in and the Jaguars make it in as a wild card if the Steelers end up losing. It gets all a tricky mess, as you can see in here. A lot of colors. If you like these type of graphics, a lot of colors. It could get confusing, but simple to follow. So, like right at the top, if the Raiders win, the Bills win, the Steelers win, the Jaguars win, the Colts win. Ravens are the 1 seed, Bills 2 seed, Chiefs 3 seed, Jaguars 4 seed, Browns 5 seed, 6 seed Dolphins, and the Colts get in at the 7 seed. So this kind of gives you also a picture of what games kind of matter this weekend in the division for this all to happen. So obviously it starts with Denver and Las Vegas. Bills, Dolphins, obviously. Ravens, Steelers, big one. Titans, Jaguars, big one. And then obviously Colts, Texans. So if we take a look at the NFC one, this one, a little more broken down. The first side, that's just for the first, second, third, and fifth seed because those are basically locked in. Like I said, 49ers already clinched. It's going to most likely be the Cowboys as the 2 seed. Most likely going to be the Lions as the 3 seed. And the 5 seed, most likely going to be the Eagles. The only situation where this works out that the Lions aren't the 3 seed is if the Commanders win, the Giants win, and the Lions win, which I don't see happening. So Lions are going to be the 3 seed. And then it's basically just going to decide on if the Cowboys win, then it's a lock that they're going to be that 2 seed. Now, if we look at the 4 seed, which is the AFC or NFC South, I should say, and that just mess of a division. And then the 6th seed and the 7th seed. So most scenarios do have the Rams ending up the 6th seed. That is going to be your most likely outcome here. Like I said, the Packers most likely have to win to make the playoffs. I mean, if you look at all these scenarios, they have to win to make it. There's only 3 scenarios where if they lose, they can still make it. And even then, it's very far-fetched because 2 of them depend on the Panthers winning, and that is very unlikely. Well, I should say 2 of them require the Panthers and Cardinals winning, and 1 of them only involves Cardinals winning. But still, I don't see that happening. The Packers need to win to get in. But then going off of that, if the Packers win with that Rams, it's going to just depend on if the Rams beat the 49ers or not. Obviously, with the 49ers sitting a lot of players, it would look better for the Rams to end up with that 6th seed. But, I mean, you never know how this could play out. So if it went as chalk as it's believed, it would most likely be the Rams as the 6th seed and the Packers as 7th seed. So the Rams would go to Detroit, which that's a storyline in its own, and the Packers would go to Dallas, which is also a storyline of its own. The NFL loves the scenarios for either of those, especially for the Lions. They've got to be looking and saying Detroit's first home game in 30 years can either be a division opponent that they lost to on Thanksgiving and kind of are having a resurgence when everybody thought they were dead, or it can be the return of their quarterback that they loved in the city for a decade and a half, basically, with the team that he won a Super Bowl with going up against the Lions, who have the quarterback that was acquired in the trade for their quarterback. That is also a storyline of its own. If I had to pick which one I would rather have, I don't know. I love both of them. Selfishly, the Packers one is more interesting to me because I think the Packers would have a real shot of winning and then going on to San Francisco and getting absolutely demolished. Realistically, I think it's going to end up being the Rams. I think that's the better storyline than it being Lions-Packers because then it's just another division game. Lions-Rams just oozes storylines to the max, and I love a good storyline. And then you can see the convoluted mess for that 4 seed. It's simple. If the Buccaneers win, they get it. But then if they lose, then it's Saints or Falcons. Nobody wants to win that division, and I don't think any of the teams make it past the first round because they're most likely playing the Eagles, and it's just going to get nasty. So given that's going to wrap it up for this NFL preview of Pigskin Perspectives. Hopefully you enjoyed this episode because they're mostly going to be like this from here on out. The preview ones, at least. College football ends on Monday. Just absolute devastating. Like I said, we'll do a national championship preview on Saturday. We'll get into all those fun things. We'll recap it all on Tuesday. We'll take a quick look at the playoffs on Tuesday. Full preview of the playoffs Thursday. Fun times are ahead for the Pigskin Perspectives as we're really getting into playoff season. So thank you so much for tuning in. If you just stumbled across this video, hit like, hit subscribe, tell anybody you know about it. And hopefully we see you back here on Saturday night for a college football playoff national championship preview for the game between Michigan and Washington.